Did it work? Ooh, I really hope it worked. Hi, welcome back, heroes and heathens. I decided to change the tagline just a little bit because I think heroes and heathens is brand if we're going tokusatsu. So, um, back again. As you can see, I am no longer in behind a background, which I have over there, which I was using in my bedroom. I have now taken the second bedroom where I am now, which was previously full of boxes of all of my stuff. Like, you could not move around in here. I had to readjust it a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, and carve out a pathway and rearrange everything, only to now realize I need a full studio because I can't be running things out of my bedroom and the potential for Benny to be knocking things over. Because we can't have that. So I decided to take everything here, gut the room, take all the packaging out, or all the boxes out, and make my own studio. When I moved into this apartment 10 years ago, once our roommate left, I turned this into a studio, and then over the years, things just built up, and things got away with me, and I no longer decided to do some projects because of issues we all deal with. But now we're back, and I've got lights here, and I've got an arm. Whoop! I've got an arm with a new mic up there, so I really hope you can all hear me because I had to test this out. But as you can see, I've got my name down here. We've got some things look a little different because I have started my way down the StreamYard hole. That doesn't sound right at all. Jeez. So I wanted to bring a little more professionalism. Now, just like last time I was on, this is going to be a trial by fire. Now, why would it be a trial on fire? Well, I had everything set up prior to this. And then when I left my little stage here and then came back for a live recording, everything was gone. And I have everything set up again. The one big issue is that clicking on what I need is not going to be as smooth as I had tested it out beforehand, unfortunately. So this might be a little rough. I apologize, but it's a learning curve. So I guess an update on things. So what I'm currently watching, I am continuing to watch Wind Spectre for like the third time. I'm slowly wrapping that up. I've also started watching Juco B Fighter, the first two episodes, so I'm gonna need to go a little more head first into that because I need the information on that to do another panel. So I only have a couple of series from the Metal Hero franchise left. I've watched most of them, but I had not seen Juco B Fighter. And upon the first episode, it's pretty interesting. I mean, we many of you know it was repurposed to become Big Bad Beetleborgs, which was a completely different show than the source material. I think the villain's name in Beetleborgs was like Noxic or something, Noxy, but he was my favorite. I go to watch it this time. Not only, I still love the design and all, but he's voiced by my favorite Japanese voice actor, Shigeru Chiba. So it's a win-win situation here. The opening theme really reminds me of an 80s Super Sentai opening with all the homages that they're doing. And then the series itself seems like a mix between some older Metal Hero stuff and Super Sentai combined because I think they were trying to get more viewers by, I'm sure Sentai was doing a little better than they were at the time. So, got to make that money. So, hopefully, I can get that done quick enough and probably move on to B Fighter Kabuto and then Blue SWAT. There's all sorts. Um, in terms of Kamen Rider X will be arriving soon, so I can finally start that, which only leaves me with Stronger. That's it? Stronger? I think Stronger is the only um, Showa era writer that I have not watched in full yet. But have has anyone been caught up on Zets? I just watched episode 4 right before I went on here, and episode 3 I was a little bored with. Not bad, it just didn't grab my attention as the previous two had. Episode 4 definitely grabbed my attention for a number of reasons. One, when it came to the tokusatsu streaming game that they're doing with this, it would air at 10:30 on the East Coast, and then it would re-air at specific times later on, and then there'd be a repeated streaming thread for that. And so it was a matter of tuning in, walking away until the episode ends, and then when it starts, get back in front and watch everything. They've since changed that to now, I guess after a couple of days, the episode is up. I don't have to worry about watching it on time because that was becoming a little bit of a problem. So this makes things so much easier. The episode itself, like I said, grabbed my attention. What I'm noticing is that this dream world that they're fighting in is very reminiscent of the Doctor Strange realities from the movies, at least. And if you're not familiar with the Kamen Rider franchise, this is the first one that they were trying to push in America and I think globally as well. And it's very apparent in the designs because it certainly is a little more reminiscent of American superhero costumes, a little more streamlined. It's kind of spandex, but it has details to bring stuff out. And there's more English in the dialogue. You have Baku saying a couple of lines, but I think most of it is when they're in the dream world. And then there's that half moon, which I'm trying to figure out what is up with that. I'm sure we're going to get answers at some point, but we have yet to see them. The other thing is that by episode 4, we finally got the intro theme, which the newer ones can be hit or miss with me. This is a hit. I like this one. Not my favorite, but I certainly am enjoying it. So I'll certainly enjoy watching it on repeat every episode I watch, so I won't have to skip through that. If you didn't know, I think there was an anime convention in LA, and Zets made a huge impact there. They had a panel, they had guests from the show, mostly staff, I believe, and they they had himself. They had an official costumed Kamen Rider there, and it seemed like there was a really good turnout. I'm glad it is finally being pushed in America. Hopefully that means we can get the toys in stores again because I know GameStop was doing it for a while. Um, but then they decided to push Ultraman more, and we know how I feel about Ultraman. There he is, scratching on the door. Now, I will tell you, I'm certainly more tired today, and why would that be? Because someone kept me up all night whining in my face. Yeah, yeah, that was you. Are you sorry? No, not at all, because you've been like this all day. I don't know what's up with him recently. Let me just switch over quickly so I can see if. And nope. Okay, just double checking. Uh, because I'm not in YouTube right now, I'm in the Stream Yard program, so I'm not sure what everything is totally working. So, what my first thing I decided that I wouldn't say to cover, but to bring up just as something is to go over the panel that Joe and Brandon and I did last year. So, give you some idea of what we were working with, some things I'm going to change, and we'll have some surprises in a minute. So I'm gonna try to switch over to things here. It's not gonna be that seamless because it is giving me issues right now. And stage. Ah, there I am. So our panel was titled "It Came from Planet Spider." This title, in and of itself, I wanted like a retro sci-fi 50s title, and I almost wanted I wanted to give it a font to look like that, and you would almost hear it scream, "It came from Planet Spider!" Obviously, that did not happen, but it's how the House of Ideas, Marvel's House of Ideas, helped shape Super Sentai because they are kind of linked, or were at a time. Now, we have our mission statement here. When we started doing this in the spring of 2024, I was thinking, or at the time, the third Into the Spider-Verse movie was supposed to be out, and there's been a very long running rumor that Toei Spider-Man would take part in this. And I thought this would be great timing. Lo and behold, it didn't come out then. It's still not out. Do we have a date when it's coming out? So I said, to hell with it. We're just going to do it anyway. Now, with the slide presentation, there are all sorts of transitions I added to this. However, getting used to StreamYard and getting all this set up, it is taking away all of the transitions. So it's a little more rough than I was hoping. So we had an outline and some bullet points. The only issue we were having with the bullet points was that we wanted to go to slides here like Shitari Shinomori and some Kamen Rider, Kikaider, Inazuman, Robot Detective. And as we're going through these slides, we can't, or it'd be very exhausting to keep jumping back, as you see that I'm doing now. And then we had this script, which I was way too beholden to, and most of my face, as my voice is cracking even at my age, my face was like headfirst in the paper, trying to look up and give everyone attention as I was doing this. But it was rough juggling there. And so for future presentations, we're going to do away with the bullet points, use the bullet points as notes so I'm not strictly like reading from a script and being a little more off the cuff like I am trying to do now. And I need to get a little more warmed up to be in front of a crowd by myself because I'm normally behind a mask or a wig or a helmet or something where I'm not presenting as me. So me presenting to you is something a little new for me, or I had before when I did some toy reviews, but I had never been in front of a live audience. Oh, hi Zubat. So we got the early days of Sentai as we go through Go Ranger, and Peggy Matsuyama in her go-go boots and booty shorts because it was 1975, folks. It was the fashion at the time. Some of the weird monsters that Go Ranger had at the beginning. Moving on to Jaka, which, these are like the most gaudy, hideous costumes. But you know what? If I were to have a Super Sentai costume, it would be one of these. I don't know, would I want to do red or blue? Probably one of those two. And oh, hi Miyuchi, you suave son of a bitch. Um, so the one thing to note, if you're not familiar with some Super Sentai, it's been going on since 1975. Go Ranger and Jaka were not considered part of the Super Sentai franchise until 1995 when they retroactively added it to the rest of the series. It had originally not been counted because they did not feature a super robot, hence the term super in Super Sentai. Talking about Gene Pelk, who was a Japanophile who wanted to bring American comics over to Japan because he couldn't find them when he was over there. And we've got some pictures in here. We've got him with Tezuka. Let me see if I can. Yeah, there we go. Gene in his younger days with Osamu Tezuka. There was a meeting with Toei, and I believe this might have this was either a press conference announcing it or the actual signing deal of it. I think that should say Toei, Marvel Group, and then a bunch of kanji, which I'm not entirely familiar with. And then there was a whole deal so they could share each other's properties for a couple of years. America didn't so much use a lot of the Japanese stuff, but Japan used more of the American stuff. There was the Shogun Warriors comic and toy line, which were made from pre-established Japanese jumbo machinders of super robots. So, you've got Mazinger and you've got Raideen. And that was just a reference to one of the comic issues. Fighting Robot. This is where we talk about Spider-Man. Oh, look at those toys. Look at those toys. Those beautiful toys. Every time I look at this picture, I'm not sure if this is actually an imported Mego Spider-Man figure or not. Maybe some of you at home will know better than I would. More Super Robots, Daitetsujin 1-7, predating Super Sentai and a lot of the live-action Super Robot shows, aside from the 60s ones. But this laid the groundwork more for what was going to come down the line in the 70s. And then we've got Spider-Man with his spider brace and his Leopardon and his GP7 and Garia from Planet Spider, who turns into a spider and then just croaks in the second episode, where they literally had a spider dangling probably from a string and they glued it or whatever to get it in the frame. Takia and his father passing away. Is crouching, and of course you've got the classic Spider-Man with the machine gun. Your villains here, who I think Professor Monster, aside from those ridiculous shoes down here, is giving me kind of a more Japanese version of Doctor Doom. More Leopard in a Marveler. Marvel Comics where he actually shows up again. That was great. He's got the pose and everything, which leads to Super Sentai. There was the success of the Spider-Man show, so they thought, why not take what made us money there, reapply it to the Sentai genre, because Jaka wasn't doing too well, and they wanted to bring it back, so let's reorganize and attempt this one more time. Which, this logo looks a little bit familiar. I don't know where I've seen it before. Maybe you can tell me. Battle Fever J, which was the first one, and the crazy multi-planet, all of the country, well, not all the countries, but some of the countries were represented with Miss America, and Battle Cossack, and Battle Japan, and Battle France, and Battle Kenya. Yes, Battle Kenya was played by a Japanese man, which... Okay. Yes, Benny, I hear you. Here's the team in and out of costume. So Battle Fever Robo, your very first Super Sentai Robo in the franchise. So Battle Fever J was 1979. However, this is your standard mech. He shoots out of a larger vehicle. He does not transform. He is not what one would consider a Super Sentai mech as of now. It evolved over time. We moved over to Denji Man. We've got the scarves. I do love a good scarf. Now, here we have Daidenjin, which is their mech, but it's still a one piece, but it is also a transformable one piece. But not that one piece. The rings, I believe the rings were the first official henshin device. They just kind of like Green Lantern put it up, or more like Flash maybe, puts the ring up and they transform. And then Kenji Oba showing all of his roles here. So we've got him as Battle Kenya, Denji Blue, and Gavan, because I can never have enough of Kenji Oba. The man's the man. This was from I think the last episode of Gokaiger, which was a nod to all of his main characters that he's played over the years. More villains. Machiko Soga in one of her first Super Sentai villain forms. Denji Dog IC, which when we did the panel, I got up on my soapbox a little bit and had to discuss the ethical treatment of animals at the time. I believe things have gotten much better, but if you've seen enough of 70s tokusatsu and 80s tokusatsu, PETA was not on board with them, so to speak. And there were, I don't want to call them atrocities, but on screen there are some extreme examples of animal cruelty, which can be very upsetting. Sun Vulcan, the three team, Sun Vulcan Robo, which was a two piece now combining robot. They had the wrist mounted, my favorite types of wrist mounted henshin devices, but these are very basic. And then Toei wanted to do their own Marvel anime, which led them to uh, the Tomb of Dracula adaptation. Yamino Kyuketsuki Dracula. So based on the 1970s Tomb of Dracula, which is the series where I believe we were introduced to Blade for the very first time. Yeah, there he is. And just looking at the slides here, you can tell that quality was not on the forefront of this. If you watch the dub, it is pretty horrendous, but it is an enjoyable form of horrendous. Let me just check one. No, comment stick to the stage. I'm trying to gauge the comments here. I, I'm jumping between that. Okay. And Dracula takes a bride, and there's a whole thing that he's fighting with the devil, and he gets his powers taken away, which resulted in one of the most memorable clips and scenes you've probably seen online of Dracula eating a hamburger, which led to Marvel Productions using Toei, and they started doing uh, G.I. Joe toy commercials, and then they eventually started animating or being outsourced to do more animation with the biggest 80s properties at the time. So we got Transformers, G.I. Joe, Gem, Inhumanoids. I mean, these are all Hasbro properties. And then the Pride of the X-Men, because one of Marvel Productions' last, or no, there was a RoboCop animated series which they nixed the last episode and used the budget from that to funnel into an X-Men pilot, which was Pride of the X-Men. It's cheesy, but it's great, and it does a good job at encompassing everything into one episode, one complete story, even though some of the explanation of the characters is a little hammy and kind of forceful. Very um, a lot of info dropping in that for those who are not familiar with it. Bringing Super Sentai to the West, we've got Stan Lee and Margaret Lesh, who wanted to bring Super Sentai over. They created a reel, a $25,000 sizzle reel consisting of footage from the show to sell to potential broadcasters. But the one thing you needed to know at the time was that Stan was not seen as the big figurehead of Marvel Comics that he eventually became, and did not have as much leverage as he eventually did. So a lot of the people that he shopped this around to, they thought it was cheap and essentially trash. Um, I don't know if that footage is lost media or not. It's been very hard to track down. And then this was the end. So at the time, Brandon and I did it. You can follow us here, yada, 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 the end. This was the prize you could have won. And then we jumped into trivia time. So this was my moment to shine, basically, to turn on that Baron charm. So I had a mic. Actually, no, I didn't have a mic because we couldn't get it set up. I had to use my voice. The room was small enough that I could project and just turn that entertainer mode on and went into the crowd and started asking questions. They were all multiple choice. And I that was a lot of fun. That was one of the highlights of our third time presenting. And the best part was that most of the people understood the references. Most of them got the questions right, which was it was rewarding, it was satisfying, because when we had done it one time prior, it did not go as well as I had hoped, so to speak. So, I mean, if you want me to go through some of these questions, I can right now. So we had the intro, which was "Welcome to the game that's sweeping the nation, tedious tokusatsu trivia. The rules of the game are simple. We are going to test your might in the form of questions somewhat related to the topics discussed in our presentation to the members of our lovely, lovely audience. That's you. Should they answer correctly, they win. Now, what might they win, you say? Stop! I'm the one asking the questions here. So, should you prove your mettle, you'll be going home with our coveted Toei "Don't You Dare Share Our Stuff Online, or We'll Come After You" badge. Ooh, which was the badge featured here. So remember, that's Toei. Share this, and we'll break your legs. Let's begin, shall we? So I have about 8 questions. I'm not going to go through all of them. What would be a good one? So I'd shown the Spider-Man car earlier, and it was despite having a flying mech Spider-Man piloted in the show, he also had his own car, the GP7. What does GP in GP7 stand for? Your answers are, or your options are: A, Grand Prix; B, Gene Pelk; C, Go Pilot; or D, my favorite, Greasy Pantaloons. The answer is B, Gene Pelk. They actually named the car after him, which was a neat nod to him. And what's this music here? Okay, so while bringing up Go Ranger and Jaka, we mentioned they are the longest and shortest Super Sentai, respectively, to date. Which is the second longest Super Sentai? A, Kaizoku Sentai Go Kaiger; B, this was also my favorite, Dekkai Oppai Sentai Munager. If if you know what that translates into, points for that. C, Maho Sentai Maji Ranger; or D, Denji Sentai or Dengeki Sentai Changeman. And the answer was D, Dengeki Sentai Changeman. That So prior to 1993's introduction of Power Rangers, there were, in fact, other attempts to bring Super Sentai stateside. What Super Sentai was notoriously dubbed as a comedy in 1987? Fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. Kagaku Sentai. A, Dynaman; B, Shinaman; C, Krynaman; or D, Chinaman. The answer is A, Dynaman. However, Chinaman was the working title that they were going with for Die Ranger before they changed it to Die Ranger, which would have I don't know how I feel about that. Hopefully, I'm definitely not as parched as I was last time. Nerves running through everything. Let's see if we can go back to here. And okay, good. At least I can get this transition well enough. Um, so yeah, the next couple of bits may be a little rough. So, but we're gonna go through this anyway. So I wanted to add a segment. Hopefully, I can do something like this every week. I think I have enough knowledge that we can do this. We're gonna switch. We're gonna go to cinematic mode, and we're gonna. Yes, we're doing a top 5, and I chose the V for 5 because V is a common theme in Super Sentai. So again, stay on brand. Now, there's Benny again. What might the topic be this time? Super Sentai Mechs. And as I get all this ready, now Super Sentai Mech themes. For me, I always like a powerful charging into battle feel when they make their way onto the screen. Some of them do charge into battle, which is so cool. But I kind of had a list of 10, but I had to whittle it down to 5. So let's begin. Number 5. And hopefully you can hear some of this in the background. Biorobo no Ta, sung by Takayuki Miyauchi, one of my favorite singers of tokusatsu and other stuff. So this was the first Super Sentai mech theme to really have thundering, rushing into battle feel by 1984. This also feels a little darker than some of them. I mean, I wouldn't say Bioman was terribly dark, but like even with the black in the outfit here, it gives a more mature feel to it. It's got the powerful Miyuchi vocals, and then he eventually gets to the chorus where he starts shouting "Bio, Bio, Bio, Robo," full of energy. I absolutely love it. Oh. All right, number 4, which is number 5. So, well, 5 man. So it's Itsutsu no Kokoro de 5 Robo, based on GQ Sentai 5 man. Now, 5 man wasn't a terribly great one for me. This was also the series that was almost going to be the last one because things were not selling. But if you can hear, it's sung by Hironobu Kageyama. You may know him better as the second Saint Seiya opening singer, but more importantly, he is Mr. Dragon Ball Z and did most of the songs for that series. But he's done vocals for, let's see, Changeman, Maskman, and Jetman. However, I feel this is probably one of his most energetic songs, and it gets me pumped every time. Kageyama at his finest. 5 Robo! Number 3. It builds up in a little bit, so just give it a second. Dash Live Robo from Koji Kaya. So, I want to say Live Man is one of my absolute favorite Super Sentai team series. Now, everyone will say, oh, Jetman's great, Jetman's great. And it is. But to me, it's more of an anomaly because it broke a lot of rules. It was supposed to be the last series. So, I don't quite count it as a full-fledged Super Sentai, even though it technically is a full-fledged one. But Live Man is probably my favorite. Good opening, good build-up, soaring trumpets, and it has this adventuring, driving beat to it. I've got notes to go over this. Number 2, which... Ooh, here. Majin Gattai, Maji King from Masaki Endo. So with Masaki Endo, at least, well, I wouldn't call him one of the old guards of a lot of the tokusatsu singers. He came later on, but I would not necessarily call him the current guard. The way they're getting artists for these themes operates a little differently now than it used to do. But with Maji King, it has this knightly feel to it, Endo's youthful, dramatic singing, the pre-chorus build-up. Here we go. Wait for it. Wait for it. This song has been stuck in my head all week. And it's, you see he's got wings, he's magic themed because Maji Ranger was working on the backs of the popularity of Harry Potter, but I can feel this character soaring through the skies as he makes his way into battle. Number one, I have already, I think I already said last time which was my favorite, and it should come as no surprise, and that would be Ginga no Oja Gingayo, another Takayuki Miyauchi theme. So, Ginga Man, not my favorite, not a lot stood out, but this song absolutely did. It's regal, it's powerful, and I can tell he's essentially a sentient being powered by nature and the stars. So, like, ah, okay. So there, we've got a top five. We're working with it. There's certainly room, plenty of room for improvement. I don't know what else I really had in mind to cover this week, so I don't want to cover too much and I don't want to go off the rails because I don't want to burn through too much material way too fast. So, unlike last time, which was, God, like an hour and 15 minutes, we're working with like 36 right now, but we're gonna get into the groove. I'm hoping to have friends and other tokusatsu people on to join me, which should be great to bounce off of because I like to bounce off of people who are just as passionate about this as I am. So to wrap things up, well, first of all, what's your favorite Super Sentai Robo? So where can you find me? Facebook. God, I've had Facebook forever. I don't use it as much, but I will occasionally use it. Instagram, I'm on much more. However, if you're looking for tokusatsu themed content, I'm keeping that most strictly to threads. And you can find me that below. So if you want to add me there, that would be great. But at that point, I'm going to say from Baron HQ, I haven't used that tagline in like 10 years back in my Tour World Order days. Miss you guys. So from Baron HQ, I bid you adieu.